Millionaire's heartwarming return reveals an incredible, touching secret his pregnant wife hid from him. Jake Reynolds pulled into Maplewood, his childhood town, filled with anticipation. The streets had always felt like home, familiar and warm, like an old blanket. But as a millionaire, everything felt different. The modest homes now seemed to stare at him with a mixture of nostalgia and envy. He'd left Maplewood as a simple mechanic. Now he was returning as a tech mogul. This was supposed to be a triumphant return, but something felt off. As he parked the car, he glanced over at Emily, his wife, who was glowing with the unmistakable sparkle of motherhood. "Can you believe we're back?" Jake asked, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. Emily smiled, her eyes gleaming with excitement, but there was an undercurrent of worry that didn't go unnoticed. She had her own plans for Maplewood, plans he knew nothing about. Yet he stepped onto the sidewalk, memories of bicycle rides and children's laughter flooded his mind. The sense of fresh grass and barbecues lingered in the air, yet the mood felt charged like the calm before a storm. Jake's old friends greeted him, some with half-hearted smiles. The cheers he once received had morphed into awkward silence, each of his former buddies looking at him with veiled resentment. "Look who's made it big," one of them muttered, the words dripping with sarcasm. Jake felt his heart sink. He tried to brush it off, but the whispers from the gathered crowd gnawed at him like a persistent itch. Emily, meanwhile, devoted her energy to the local community center in disrepair. She became the unsung hero, tirelessly raising funds for families in need. Each evening spent glued to her computer screen kept her away from Jake, who was busy mixing with the elite. She kept her charity under wraps, fearing that revealing her work would feel like a burden to him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the days passed, tension simmered in their home. Jake learned of the growing accusations. "Jake has forgotten us," they said, the comments echoing louder each time. Frustrated, he confronted Emily one night. "Why didn't you tell me what you were doing?" Her voice trembled. "Because I didn't want you to think less of me. This is what matters to me, Jake. Helping our community." At that moment, Jake felt the weight of their struggle. He was losing touch with his roots, yet Emily remained steadfast, holding on to the very fabric of what they both cherished. As their argument crescendoed, she revealed a shocking truth: Jake's success somehow connected to those babies of Maplewood. Could a single thread tie him to those humble homes from which he'd come, a legacy he could embrace rather than hide? Jake stood at the edge of a precipice, his heart racing. Would he dare to intertwine his newfound fortune with the struggles of his beginnings? As the echoes of their feud faded, a new clarity emerged within him. What happened next would challenge everything they built together and redefine their love. Jake woke up the next morning with the sunlight streaming through the window and a lingering heaviness in his chest. He turned to Emily, who was still asleep, her hand resting gently on her growing belly. The sight filled him with a mix of warmth and uncertainty. The night before had been the first crack in the carefully constructed facade of their lives, and he could feel the enormity of what lay ahead. He climbed out of bed and tiptoed to the kitchen. He needed coffee. The smell of brewing coffee usually soothed him, but today it only compounded his anxious thoughts. He stared out the window, watching the world come alive outside. A jogger passed by, a couple walked their dog, and children laughed as they rode their bikes. All of it felt like a world he had drifted away from, and he suddenly yearned to reconnect. What could he do to make things right? The whispers of the townspeople still echoed in his mind, the snarky comments stinging worse than he admitted. Jake's forgotten us. They might not be wrong. He had been so absorbed in his success, the glitz and glamour, that he had neglected the town that built him. And Emily, she was a part of this town, a part of their community. He needed to understand her vision and support her. With a new determination, he made a decision. He would focus not just on rebuilding his relationship with Emily, but also on engaging with Maplewood, blending his expertise with her passion. As he poured himself a fresh cup of coffee, he decided he would visit the community center that day, the very place where she poured her heart and soul. When Emily finally woke up, she found him sitting at the kitchen table, a rare smile on his face. "Good morning. Listen, I was thinking maybe we should go to the community center together today?" Her eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Really? You want to come?" "Absolutely. I want to see what you're working on, maybe even lend a hand." Emily studied his face, searching for the sincerity in his words. "You don't have to do that just for me, Jake. I know things have been tough between us. I know. But I want to make it right. We're in this together, right?" A flicker of hope sparked in her eyes. "Together." She agreed with a nod, and they both got ready to leave. As they drove through the town, Jake felt a torrent of emotions welling within him. With every turn, memories flooded back of playing with friends at the park, the annual Maplewood Fair, and the sense of belonging that came with both triumph and failure. This was where he had become who he was. Arriving at the community center, they stepped into a chaotic world alive with activity. Children ran around giggling, while volunteers sorted donations. Emily seemed to blossom in this environment. With every interaction, her passion radiated, drawing people in. Jake watched her, admiring the ease with which she engaged. He noticed an elderly woman struggling to lift a box. Without thinking, he rushed over to assist her. As he took the box, he overheard the woman thanking him and admired the grateful smiles of the community around him. "See?" Emily said, excitement in her voice as she joined him. "This is what I'm talking about." He felt a connection growing, not just to the community, but also to Emily's vision. But underneath all of this warmth, fear simmered around a question he hadn't found the courage to ask yet. What was it that connected his success to Maplewood's struggle? This elusive thread nagged at him, his success intertwined with those humble homes, his fortune potentially a lifeline. As the day went on, Jake felt himself diving deeper into the heart of his old town, but the question remained. What would happen when the truth was finally revealed? The uncertainty swirled around him, threatening to cloud the joy of community. All he knew was he had a choice to make, one that could change everything. Would he embrace the truth, or let it tear them apart? The atmosphere inside the community center was electric. Laughter and chatter intertwined with the sound of children playing, creating a melody that tugged at Jake's heart. He caught a glimpse of Emily as she chatted with a few volunteers, her smile radiant and contagious. It was clear that she belonged here, and he felt an overwhelming urge to dive into her world. As he wandered from room to room, he began to participate in various activities. He helped set up tables for an upcoming event, paint colorful banners, and even threw a few balls with the kids in the gymnasium. With each passing moment, he felt the weight on his shoulders lift a little more. The pain of his previous disconnect slowly faded into the background, replaced by an increasing sense of belonging. "See? You're a natural," Emily exclaimed after spinning a child around during a game. "No way. I just don't want to end up on the sidelines again," he replied, laughing. Her joy was infectious, and he found himself smiling more than he had in weeks. But just as warmth settled in, the shadows would creep back. The question that haunted him, the connection between his success and the struggles around him, persisted in the corner of his mind. He glanced around at the faces, the lives that depended on their community center success. What if taking from this town had cost them more than he realized? Moments later, while organizing some boxes, he overheard snippets of conversation. A group of women discussed donations and funding. Words like struggling and barely making ends meet reached his ears, and a chill trickled down his spine. He felt as if he was eavesdropping on something far more significant than a simple chat. "Did you hear? The town won't last another year if we can't secure more funding," one of them said, her voice tinged with worry. "Jake's company could step in," another offered. "That could do wonders for us." He froze, the color draining from his face. The connection became painfully clear. His success, his corporate life, had been built upon foundations that were crumbling for those in Maplewood, friends and families he had grown up with. The thought made him nauseous. How could he have overlooked something so essential? Emily approached him, nudging his shoulder gently. "Everything okay?" Her brow creased with concern. Swallowing hard, he forced a smile. "Yeah, just taking it all in." But he knew he had to confront the reality soon. The fear of having to choose between what he had built and the community he had abandoned loomed larger than ever. As the day wound down, Jake and Emily found a moment alone, sitting on a bench outside under the setting sun. The sky radiated pinks and oranges, a stark contrast to the turmoil in his heart. "I'm really glad you came today," she said softly. "I wasn't sure if you would really connect." "I didn't either, but there's something special here," he replied, avoiding her gaze. "Emily, I need to ask you something serious." A supportive look spread across her face, but the tension in the air thickened. Could he really put their fragile peace on the line and voice the truth? Before he could say anything else, they were interrupted by a commotion inside the center. An excited shout came from the main hall, drawing their attention. "What is happening?" Emily stood up, eyes wide with curiosity. Jake followed her, yet an anxious pit formed in his stomach. As they entered, the sight that greeted them was unexpected. A crowd had gathered around a large poster board, all eyes glued to it. Cheers erupted as someone unveiled a proposal for a massive new project aimed at revitalizing Maplewood. Jake's heart raced. Would this be the lifeline the town desperately needed? Or would it further complicate his already tangled thread of emotions and responsibility? With the crowd buzzing, Jake felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. What did this mean for Emily, for the community, for their future? He shared a quick glance with her, their eyes locking in silent understanding. "What do you think?" she asked, excitement tainting her voice. But he couldn't answer. The weight of their choices loomed too large, and he realized his next words would change everything. As they stepped closer to the crowd, Jake knew the truth awaited just around the corner, ready to redefine their lives. But was he prepared to face it? The celebration in the community center reached a fever pitch. Cheers, laughter, and the sporadic clapping of hands echoed off the walls, creating an atmosphere charged with hope and anticipation. Jake stood there, rooted to the spot, the weight of his thoughts pressing heavily on him. The energy felt electric, and yet a voice in his head whispered doubts. As the crowd gathered closer to the poster board, Emily tugged on his arm, urging him forward. "Come on! We need to see this." Her enthusiasm pulled him from his inner turmoil, but the knot in his stomach tightened. He followed her, yet his heart pounded louder than the cheers. The poster was brightly decorated, vivid colors, and bold letters promising transformation for Maplewood. A pitch for a new community park, after-school programs for kids, perhaps even a local farmer's market. Anything to revive the community felt like it hinged on this moment. Each word held hopeful potential, but Jake's mind raced with what this could mean for him. What if it depended on his company as support? Isn't it amazing? Emily's eyes sparkled, reflecting the bright lights strung around the hall. Her excitement was contagious, yet it felt like a burst of sunshine illuminating his fears rather than dispelling them. "Yeah, amazing," he replied, forcing a smile. As more details emerged from the presentation, Jake was struck by how the plan didn't just focus on physical changes. It also aimed to unite the community like never before. He watched as people leaned in, faces animated with discussion, inspired by the idea that they could turn things around together. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder, shaking him slightly from his thoughts. It was Mrs. Thompson, a beloved figure in Maplewood and one of the original volunteers at the center. "Jake," she started, her voice just above the noise, "this could really help us more than you know. Your input would be invaluable." Her faith in him compounded the weight of his internal conflict. Could he truly step into this role as a savior? Or would his involvement only amplify the divide he had unwittingly influenced? He exchanged a glance with Emily, whose face was illuminated with hope. A part of him wanted to share his fears. He wanted her to know how deeply he was wrestling with his past decisions. But another part, the part that recognized the necessity of this moment, nudged him to keep quiet. He thought of what it would mean for her. How could he shatter her excitement when she was so close to believing change was possible? Before he could respond, a wave of sound came from the crowd, drawing attention back to the speaker. "We need local businesses to step up," someone proclaimed. The crowd murmured in agreement. Jake's heart sank. Would his business, the very thing he had built, become part of the solution or the problem? Their eyes transitioned back to him as he felt the weight of those gazes, their expectations and hopes pressing against him like a palpable force. "Jake," Emily urged, "what do you think? You could really make a difference." The words hung between them. Could he? Faced with a choice that could alter everything, his breath quickened. He needed to choose a side. He felt the gravitational pull toward Emily's unwavering belief in a brighter future. But would that mean sacrificing his own past? In that moment, he realized what lay ahead wasn't just a decision about his business. It was a choice about the legacy he wished to leave, not just in Maplewood, but within himself. As the energy around the crowd surged, heads turned towards him, his heart raced. He could feel the momentum building, could feel the shift of something profound about to happen. And then, with the spotlight suddenly on him, he knew the moment had come. "Can I say something?" Jake's voice caught everyone's attention, a mix of nervousness and determination flooding through him. Emily looked over, her expression filled with curiosity and slight concern. What would he reveal? And how would it change everything for both him and the community he was slowly growing to cherish? The crowd waited, eager and hopeful, filling the air with a potent mix of anticipation and uncertainty. Jake took a deep breath, ready to bare his soul. What would spill out of him next? "Listen," he began, the weight of his choice hanging in the air like a tightrope stretched between 2 points. Would he step into the light, or fall back into the shadows of his past? Jake's heart raced as he felt the weight of every gaze upon him. The room fell silent, an expectant hush that seemed to intensify the heat of the moment. Faces filled with anticipation stared back at him. It was time to take a leap he'd been avoiding for too long. "Listen," he repeated, steadying himself as he searched the crowd for Emily's encouraging smile. "I know I've made mistakes. I've seen how my decisions have divided this community." A murmur broke through the crowd, but he pressed on, forcing the words out. "But I want to change that." Cheers erupted, mixed with clapping, but Jake didn't let the applause drown out his determination. "I want to commit my business to this project. We can help make Maplewood a place the people are proud to call home." As he spoke, he watched Mrs. Thompson's expression soften, realizing how much it meant to her, and to the others who had stood by the community for so long. There were nods of approval, tears glistening in some eyes. It was a small step, but it felt monumental to him. "I can't fix everything," he continued, feeling bolder with each word. "But I promise to do my part. I want to invest in this park, in the after-school programs, and in bringing everyone together. Emily beamed at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and Jake felt a spark igniting within himself, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. As he looked around, a new sense of belonging started to replace his doubts. He could see the hesitation replaced with hope. He wasn't just a business owner anymore. He was a part of something more significant than himself. That realization buoyed him, and he felt lighter, as if the weight of the world was beginning to lift. The noise of excitement filled the hall as confusion turned to joy. Jake had stepped into the light, embracing the commitment he was ready to make. But just as he felt the rush of acceptance surge through him, a strange sense of fear clawed at the back of his mind. What if this was too late? What if his past decisions couldn't be undone? Jake turned back to the podium, taking a final breath. Let us work together, Maplewood. Let us change not just our community, but each other. We have the power to build a new future together. A thunderous applause met his words, and he felt adrenaline course through him. It was overwhelming, but it was real. The moment sparkled with possibility, and he knew this transformation wouldn't just alter Maplewood, it would change him, too. Jake, that was amazing, Emily exclaimed as people swarmed him, eager to discuss ideas and ways to make it happen. Warmth enveloped him, and Jake felt for the first time in a long while the bond of a community wrapped around him. But just as he began to bask in this glow, he saw a figure at the edge of the crowd. It was Tom, an old acquaintance, wearing an expression Jake couldn't quite decipher. The energy shifted as Tom approached, his demeanor less celebratory, more guarded. Jake, Tom said, his voice low but piercing through the excitement, I need to talk to you about something. The weight returned suddenly to Jake's chest, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He had just embraced a new beginning, yet in that moment, Tom's presence felt like a storm cloud ready to cast a shadow over his fragile hope. Sure, what is it? Jake replied cautiously, sensing the tension in the air. Tom hesitated, glancing back at the eager crowd before leaning closer. There is something about your company, something you need to know. What could his old acquaintance possibly mean? And how could it change everything he had just declared? The anticipation now twisted into uncertainty. Jake's heart pounded once more as he waited for Tom's next words. What revelation was about to unfold that might pull him back into the shadows he had just battled to escape? Jake's breath caught in his throat, his mind racing as Tom's gaze dropped to the ground. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, and the buzz of the crowd faded into the background. What could possibly be so important that it warranted this hushed tone? The colors of the vibrant event blurred, rendering everything gray in this moment of foreboding. Tom ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit Jake remembered all too well. It's about the financing for your project, he finally said, voice barely above a whisper. I heard some rumors that your company is in trouble. Big trouble. Panic surged through Jake, a dark tide washing over the hope he had just begun to nurture. What do you mean? I just committed everything to helping the community. We're turning a new leaf here. There was a sharp edge to his voice, tinged with fear and disbelief. I know, and that's why I have to tell you this, Tom urged, his expression serious. It's not just hearsay. You're being investigated. Something about misappropriated funds. It could risk everything you built. Jake's hands started to shake, the reality of Tom's words crashing down like a wave. He felt exposed, naked on this stage he thought he'd finally conquered. Not just his business, but his newfound commitment to Maplewood felt suddenly fragile, as if it could unravel in an instant. Who said this? Is it true? He demanded, struggling to keep the tremor out of his voice. I don't know all the details, Tom admitted, glancing over his shoulder again. But you need to figure this out fast. If the community finds out. The thought was unbearable. Everything he'd just shared, everything he'd hoped to begin building, could slip through his fingers like sand. He felt as if the foundations he had pledged to fortify were now the very structures at risk of collapse. "I have to go," Jake said abruptly, his mind racing. He needed to confront this head-on and find out the truth before shadows from the past clouded his future. The world around him faded into an indistinct blur. The cheers and the applause fell silent as urgency pierced through the moment. "I'm here if you need me," Tom called after him, perhaps more as a desperate offer than a promise of real support. Jake pushed through the crowd, heart pounding. He spotted Emily still animatedly discussing plans with the townsfolk, her enthusiasm a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside him. Just moments ago, he felt invincible. Now terror gripped him. "Emily!" he called out, weaving through excited chatter, her laughter ringing out like music. She turned, her smile flickering with concern as she approached him. "What is wrong?" Her voice was soft, but urgency broke through. "I need to talk to you." "It's about the company." Jake hesitated, the words stuck in his throat, burdened by the weight of everything he didn't know. "Jake, you look pale." "Just tell me." She placed a hand on his arm, grounding him in the moment, and he felt the warm connection spark, reminding him of everything he had to lose. "Tom said I might be in trouble. That my company, it could risk everything I just promised," he confessed, feeling the weight of defeat creeping back in. Shock flickered across her features, and for a moment, everything else faded away: the laughter, the cheers, the joy that had filled the hall. It was just the two of them now, standing on the edge of uncertainty. "You can't let this hold you back." Emily's determination shone brighter than ever. "You've already stepped into the light. We have to fight for this together." With renewed resolve, Jake nodded, feeling the flicker of hope within him battling against the darkness trying to take hold. "You're right," he said, a fire igniting once more. But what first step would they take? And could it really be enough to shield them from the storm approaching? As Jake looked into Emily's fierce gaze, he knew the answer lay somewhere in the depths of their shared resolve. And just as the determination surged, the weight of the unknown loomed larger than ever. Jake stood before Emily, his mind a whirlwind of ideas and emotions. Their hands lingered together, each squeeze reminding him of the urgency of their situation. He took a deep breath, determination flooding his veins. "We need to get to the bottom of this," he declared, his voice steadier than he felt. "If there are rumors, it means someone is talking. We need to figure out who and why." "You should start with your financial records," Emily suggested, her brow furrowing in concentration. "If there is something wrong, you can catch it before it gets out. It's all numbers, right? We can go through them together." Jake nodded, the idea grounding him. Maybe they could uncover the truth before it spiraled out of control. "Let us head back to the office. I need to see everything." The energy between them shifted, intensity crackling in the air. They were partners in a struggle now, their hands joined as they stepped into the daunting unknown. The office was empty when they arrived, the overhead lights humming in the silence. Jake switched on his laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard as Emily stood beside him, offering quiet encouragement. The screen flooded with graphs and charts, data that was meant to represent growth, promise, and the future of Maplewood. "Look," Jake said, squinting at a chart that depicted recent expenses. "This doesn't add up." He pointed to a spike in spending that didn't correspond with any project. "What is this?" Emily leaned closer, scanning the figures. She shook her head in disbelief. "It looks like, but why would there be so much spent on external consulting? That's not how you operate." "No, it's not," Jake muttered, a sinking feeling settling in his stomach. "When did this happen?" He clicked through the records, the colors of hope on his charts turning to shades of anxiety. "I can't recall approving these expenses. I need to get to the bottom of this." "Could someone be framing you?" she asked, eyes wide. Jake ran a hand through his hair, the weight of distrust hanging heavy in the air. "Maybe. But who and why now? A slow knotted anger blossomed inside him. He felt betrayed even contemplating the possibility that one of his own could stab him in the back. Before he could voice his concerns, the office door swung open. Jake turned, and his stomach dropped. Standing in the doorway was Richard, his investor and a man Jake once considered a friend. Richard's presence felt like ice on his skin, an unwelcome chill that raised the hairs on the back of his neck. "I didn't expect to find you here," Richard said, his voice dripping with false enthusiasm. "Heard some unsettling news about financing. Just wanted to check in on you." Jake's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he stood tall, protecting Emily as if she were a shield against the looming threat. "Why are you really here, Richard?" he demanded, bracing for whatever facade the man was about to drop. Richard chuckled softly, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Just looking out for my investment. You wouldn't want anything to happen, would you?" A silence settled over the room, thick with tension. Jake felt Emily shift beside him, a reminder of everything at stake. "Actually," Jake replied coolly, "it's time you told me the truth about the rumors." "Rumors?" Richard glanced to Emily, then back at Jake, dismissing the tension with an insincere smile. "You're jumping to conclusions." "Am I?" Jake replied, a fire igniting in his belly. "Let us not pretend you didn't know something." Richard's mask slipped slightly. Anger flashed in his eyes. "Be careful, Jake. You don't want to get caught up in something you don't understand." In that moment, Jake realized this was more than just business. It was a war for the heart of his dreams, his community, and perhaps his very life. He could feel Emily's support, yet a sliver of doubt threaded through him. What if Richard held the key to his downfall? And in that moment of confrontation, Jake understood, this battle wouldn't just be against rumors, but against betrayal. "What are you hiding, Richard?" he pressed, his voice low and deliberate, each word hanging in the charged air. As Richard's smirk faltered, Jake felt tension mount. They were on the brink of uncovering something far deeper and more dangerous. How far would Richard go to protect what was his? And what lengths would Jake have to reach in order to reclaim his rightful path? The next steps loomed ominously ahead. Jake's gaze bore into Richard, the tension like a taut wire between them. He could see Richard starting to crack, the self-assured front slipping with every passing moment. Emily stood beside him, her presence a steadying force. Together, they were determined to expose the truth, no matter the cost. "I'm not playing games, Richard," Jake said firmly. "You think I don't know what is happening? Those numbers don't lie. Someone is stealing from me. From all of us." Richard straightened his shoulders, but Jake could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You're being paranoid. This is business, and it can be brutal. You should focus on managing, not rummaging through old accounts like a detective." "Stop deflecting," Emily interjected, her voice sharp. "We need answers, and we need them now. Are you covering for someone, or are you the one pulling the strings?" "Watch your tone," Richard shot back, his control wavering. "This is my investment too, remember? And I'm the one running this business." Jake snapped. "It's my job to protect it. So if you're trying to undermine me, I'm trying to help you." Richard barked, his anger spilling over. "You're about to ruin everything. You focus on your little projects while I handle the real deals that keep everything afloat." Jake's heart raced, adrenaline surging through his veins. He was ready to explode with righteous indignation. "What do you mean, real deals? Are you saying I'm not capable?" Richard smirked. "Let's just say some things are better left to those who know how to play in the big leagues. You still have that naive spark, Jake. It's cute." Jake didn't understand how he could ever think that was a compliment. Rage boiled beneath his skin, and he clung to the reality that if he didn't keep calm, Richard could twist this whole situation as a power play against him. He had to think strategically. With a slow breath, he focused on Emily, remembering her counsel. "You're the reason these operations are faltering," Jake accused, now framing the blame, wanting Richard to defend himself. "Who are you in cahoots with? What is your angle?" "I've played my cards wisely," Richard admitted through gritted teeth. "But don't underestimate me, Jake. Some ties are prudent for staying afloat." "Prudent? Is that what you call undermining me? Leaving me vulnerable? You think I'd just sit back and let you destroy everything I care about?" Their eyes locked, the animosity growing sharper. Emily could feel the air thickening. It was almost suffocating. She squeezed Jake's arm, a silent reminder to hold onto hope and resilience even in this storm. This was bigger than they'd imagined. "What do you think will happen if investors pull out because of your negligence?" Richard shot back, his voice low, menacing. "More than just your precious business, your reputation, your future, everything you built could go up in flames." Jake kept his composure, but felt a chill wash over him. He clenched his jaw. "I won't let that happen. Not now. Not ever." "Think carefully, Jake. You're opening doors that could unleash chaos," Richard warned, but there was something different in his tone now. Was it fear? Before Jake could respond, Richard turned sharply and headed for the door, then paused. "You still have time to reconsider, but the clock is ticking." As the door clicked shut behind him, a heavy silence settled in the office. Emily let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "I can't believe what just happened," she whispered. "He is hiding something. We have to find a way to dig deeper." Jake nodded slowly, determination hardening in his chest. "We will. I refuse to let him take everything from me. But we need to be careful. No one can know we're onto him." Just then, a notification pinged on Jake's laptop, a message from an unknown sender. "Meet me at the riverfront. I have the information you need. Come alone." Jake's heart raced. Who was this person? Did they know about Richard? The urgency washed over him like a wave. It could be a trap, Emily warned, but Jake felt a surge of hope. Or it could be our chance to uncover the truth. He took a deep breath, excitement mixing with fear. Jake glanced at Emily, whose eyes brimmed with concern, but also with belief. They were in this together. Jake stood, ready to act. "I have to go, Em. We have to know what else is out there lurking in the shadows." But even as he spoke, unease shook him. Could he trust this mystery contact? And was he prepared for the battle that lay ahead? There was no turning back now. The truth awaited, but what would it reveal? The weight of the decision loomed over Jake as he stepped out of the office. The air felt heavier with each breath he took. The distant glow of streetlights illuminated his path, providing just enough light to navigate the dimly lit streets toward the riverfront. Doubts swirled in his mind. Was meeting this stranger a step forward, or a desperate leap into danger? "Jake, wait!" Emily called, her voice echoing against the buildings. He turned, catching the worry etched across her face. "You don't have to go alone. I can come with you." He shook his head. "I can't risk it. What if this person isn't trustworthy? I don't want to put you in harm's way. But what if something happens to you?" She stepped forward, her eyes pleading. "I mean it, you're not just walking into the unknown. You're walking into danger." Jake felt a rush of warmth in his chest at her concern, but he steeled himself. "The danger is already here. Richard is playing a game I can't afford to lose. If this contact has information, it might turn the tide. I need to do this." Emily's shoulders slumped, resignation blending with fear. "Just promise me you'll be careful. Trust your instincts. You've got this." Jake nodded, feeling a resolve settle within him. "I will be careful. I promise." As he continued toward the riverfront, the sound of water lapping against the shore filled his ears, a calming rhythm juxtaposed against the chaos in his mind. Each step felt like a step closer to unraveling the tangled web of deception surrounding him. The meeting spot came into view, a deserted pier with only the soft glow of a nearby lamppost illuminating the area. He scanned the shadows, trying to catch a glimpse of the mystery contact. "Hello?" he called softly, the word echoing into the night. The stillness amplified his anxiety. Just when doubt started to creep in, a figure emerged from the darkness. "Jake," the stranger said, stepping into the light. It was a woman, her face partially hidden behind the collar of a jacket. "I'm glad you came." "Who are you?" he asked, guarded. "Someone who knows the truth about Richard. I can help you, but you have to trust me." Jake studied her face, searching for any sign of deceit. "Why should I trust you? You could be working for him." "I'm not," she replied, her voice steady. "I'll prove it. But you need to listen. What I'm about to tell you could change everything. Richard is deeper in this than you realize, and he is not the only one." His heart raced. "What do you mean? What does that even mean?" She hesitated, glancing around like she feared someone was listening. "There are others involved, investors, perhaps even people you thought were on your side." "Where is this coming from?" Jake pressed, his mind reeling. "Evidence. All I need from you is a chance to show you, but you have to come with me." She motioned toward her car parked further down the street. Jake hesitated. This was the moment of truth, the chance to uncover the secrets Richard had buried and perhaps save everything he had worked for. But the fear of the unknown tugged at him. "Let us go," he finally said, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. This was his chance to confront the threat, and he couldn't back down now. As they walked toward the car, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was a point of no return. Turning back would mean remaining trapped in uncertainty. In that car, they hoped to uncover the depths of Richard's betrayal. But would they find exactly what they were searching for, truth and clarity? Or would they stumble into an even darker conspiracy? As the engine roared to life, Jake's heart raced with the thrill of possibility, tinged with dread. The road ahead was uncertain, but he had to know what lay in the shadows, even if it meant facing demons he had yet to understand. The ride to the unknown felt surreal, with the nighttime scenery blurring past the car windows. Jake sat in silence, a whirlwind of thoughts crashing inside his head. The woman beside him, who had introduced herself as Laura, glanced at him occasionally, her expression a mix of empathy and urgency. "Just know, the information I have is sensitive," Laura said, breaking the uneasy silence. "Richard has been protecting his interests, and that could mean he is risking yours." Jake nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Why all the secrecy? Why now?" She took a deep breath. "People are scared. Richard has a way of manipulating the narrative. But if he is crossing lines, accounting lines, that is beyond business, it's criminal." As the words hung in the air, Jake's heart fell. The stakes had escalated. He wasn't just fighting for his livelihood anymore. He was fighting for everything he had started rebuilding in Maplewood, the community, Emily, their future. Laura pulled up to a dimly lit warehouse nestled away from the main road. "This is where I have the records. We can't stay long. If Richard gets wind of this, we could be in serious trouble." Jake's pulse quickened. "What kind of records are we talking about here?" "Evidence of fraudulent activities, under-the-table deals. It could blow everything wide open." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "I'm ready." They entered the warehouse, a chill creeping in as they made their way down a narrow hallway. Boxes lined the walls, covered in dust, remnants of what once hummed with activity. Laura led him into a small office, the floor cluttered with files, the air thick with an overwhelming sense of urgency. "Here," she said, rifling through a stack until she produced a folder, emblazoned with Richard's company logo. "This is what you need to see." Jake's hand shook slightly as he opened the folder, Each page was filled with discrepancies, numbers that didn't add up, transactions that led nowhere good. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The veil was lifting, revealing a world of betrayal and greed. "Are you seeing this?" he asked, voice hushed. Laura nodded. "This is just the tip of the iceberg. If you can get this to the right people, it could mean a full investigation." Just as they were diving deeper into the chaos of the documents, a sound echoed from outside, a car door slamming shut. Time slowed as panic surged through Jake. "Someone is here," he hissed. They scrambled to hide the folder, but not before a light flooded the room. "Jake?" Richard's voice boomed from the doorway. "What a surprise to find you here." Jake's heart raced as he locked eyes with Laura. "What do we do?" he whispered. "We remain calm. But we have to get out of here. Now." "Nice to see you playing hide-and-seek again, Jake," Richard taunted, stepping further into the office. "It's a shame you can't keep your affairs together. Whose arm are you twisted under?" "Not yours," Jake replied, finding confidence in the anger rising in his chest. "Is that so? You're clueless about the forces at play here," Richard sneered. In a moment of sheer instinct, Jake grabbed Laura's hand. "We need to leave now." They barreled past Richard, racing down the narrow hallway. Behind them, he shouted, "This isn't over, Jake. You'll regret this." As they burst out into the cool night air, adrenaline surged through Jake and Laura. They hopped into the car, the engine roaring to life as Jake slammed the gas pedal, their hearts racing in unison. "Do you think he'll follow us?" Laura asked, glancing nervously in the rearview mirror. "No," Jake said, steeling himself, breathing heavily. "He thinks he has got the upper hand, but he doesn't know we have enough to expose him." As the weight of the folder pressed against his inner thoughts, determination swelled inside him. They had the proof, now they just needed a plan. "Here's what we're going to do," Jake said, glancing at Laura. "We have to go public. Bring this evidence to the authorities. We can't let Richard continue to operate unchecked." Laura nodded, a spark of belief igniting in her eyes. "But we need protection, Jake," he'll retaliate. "We'll be careful. Emily deserves to know everything too. I need her by my side to face this." The road ahead was fraught with danger, but as Jake forged the way into the night, he felt something within him shift. This wasn't just a fight for a company. It was for love, for the community, for a future built on truth. He wouldn't back down. As they headed toward the dawn, an unyielding hope began to take root. They would show Maplewood their resilience, fight for their dreams, and emerge stronger against the lurking shadows of deceit. They were not just seeking truth anymore, they were creating a movement. And as the sun began to rise, bathing everything in a golden hue, Jake knew their journey was just beginning. This was the moment. Subscribing means you'll be with us every step of this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to join us. Leave a like now to fuel our passion and feed the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts on this intense climax and how you think it all will unfold. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends. They need to witness this journey to truth and hope. You need to subscribe now, because your support is what drives us forward.